What's up, blockheads? So I previously made a video going over the Harley-Davidson Sportster family, and in that video I got a ton of requests to do the same style video but on the Harley-Davidson Softail family. So who am I to deny you guys what you want? So we made a trip up to Seminole Harley-Davidson and checked out what they had in stock, got some footage, and even went and test rode some of the new Softails, which that will be in the next video. In this video though, we'll be going over the similarities and differences in the Harley-Davidson Softail line. So if you all are possibly in the market for one or just want to know more about them, hopefully this video is informative for you. Now before we get too far into it, if y'all enjoy videos like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. And while you're over there hitting that subscribe button, be sure to hit that bell icon as well to be part of the Bill Yeah Squad. That way, YouTube will send you notifications of future uploads and activity on the channel. So let's go ahead, roll the intro, and we'll get into it. So first and foremost, I'd like to give a big shout out to Seminole Harley-Davidson for the collaboration. Seminole Harley is located just north of Orlando in Sanford, Florida. They're a family-owned dealership. There's actually currently 3 generations of family working there. They've got a huge selection of inventory. They've got a riding academy that they offer that has one of the highest pass rates in the state of Florida. It's a very community-based dealership with lots of events to attend, and they actually give back to that community as well, which is pretty awesome. If y'all are looking for some good deals on used bikes, be sure to check out their website for inventory, which I'll be sure to link down in the description below of this video. If you guys call them up or go into the dealership, be sure to tell them Blockhead sent you and they'll take care of you. So yeah, in this video, we're specifically focusing on the 2019 Harley-Davidson Softail line, but I'll be sure to update these videos with each model year. So 2020s are coming pretty soon, so I'll be making a video talking about the 2020s as well, if there's any changes versus the 2019s and all that. But this video, we're specifically focusing on the 2019 Harley-Davidson Softail model year. So the Harley-Davidson Softail, first off, why is it called a Softail? So it's called a Softail because it looks like a hardtail. A hardtail is a bike without rear suspension, but despite it looking like a hardtail, it has rear suspension. The suspension on these is located out of direct view, so as to have the look and styling of a hardtail, which I'm a fan of, but I also like having rear suspension. If you guys have ever ridden a hardtail, it is a pretty rough ride. So let's go over the similarities of all the 2019 Softails. The first and most obvious one, since they're all part of the same Softail family, is that they all have the same frame or chassis. They're all built on the same frame. Harley-Davidson was able to utilize the Softail frame and make many different styles of motorcycle from it, from ones that feel a bit more classic like the Heritage and the Deluxe, to newer and sportier styles like the Fat Bob and the FXDR. The next similarity is that the entire 2019 Softail line comes with Milwaukee 8 engines, either in the 107 or 114 cubic inch. Some models only have the 107, some only have the 114, and some of them have both as an option, but we'll get into that more as we go over each model. The 107 is reported to produce around 110 foot-pounds of torque, and the 114 is reported to produce around 118 foot-pounds of torque, between 3,000 and 3,500 RPM. Miles per gallon on these is also reported in the 40+ mile per gallon range. Next similarity, they all have 6-speed transmissions. They also all have adjustable monoshock suspension. Some are adjustable from the outside via a knob. Some you have to remove the seat to adjust them. I believe they all come with LED headlights now. They also all have key fobs, which I believe they call that keyless ignition. You basically just have to have the fob within range and it'll start up. No key needed. I believe they all have USB plugs against the frame under the left part of the tank, so if you've got a phone or GPS that you're using while riding, you can plug into that instead of having to get the adapter for like a battery tender or hookup and hook it up to the battery, which that's pretty convenient. I'm sure there's some other similarities that I'm missing, but those are the main ones. Most of the braking is going to be like a 4-piston fixed front, 2-piston floating rear. Some are going to have ABS, some are not going to have ABS, but we're going to start to go into all those little details of each one. So now getting into the differences between each bike, we'll take a quick look at each one and check out the features. Also, just to go over the pricing for the 2019 line, they have an MSRP range starting at $14,549 for the Street Bob, and that goes all the way up to $21,349 for the FXDR. Just so we've got some kind of order to it, let's go ahead and start with the Street Bob, and we'll work our way up. So the 2019 Street Bob is a stripped down styled Softail with mini apes, spoked wheels, a small digital gauge, and what they call chopped fenders, basically shorter fenders than what most of the other bikes have. It's one of Harley's lighter Softails, coming in at 630 pounds. For those of you that don't ride cruisers, you think 630 pounds is still pretty heavy. It doesn't feel that bad once you're up and going. This model only comes with the 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. There's no option for the 114 on this, unfortunately, although that would be pretty cool to have the 114 in one of the lightest Softails that they offer. Fuel capacity on the Street Bob is 3.5 gallons. Seat height on this bike is 25.8 inches. It has a ground clearance of 4.9 inches, a left and right lean angle of 28.5 degrees, a 30-degree rake, and 6.2-inch trail with a 64.2-inch wheelbase. So a lot of you guys might not really care about that rake and the trail and the wheelbase, but for those of you that actually pay attention to those stats, that has a big factor on how the bike handles. You'll notice between each one of them, it's got, a lot of them have very similar wheelbases, but the rake and the trail is going to be different on many of them. The size of the tires is going to be different on many of them, and that all basically contributes to the feel of the bike and the handling. The Street Bob is definitely one of those that it's a lighter weight bike, skinnier tires, so it does feel a little bit more nimble. The Street Bob comes with a single-sided 4-piston fixed front brake and a 2-piston floating rear. They do offer ABS on this bike as optional. It doesn't come with it though. The display on this bike is Harley's new 2.14-inch LCD gauge, which displays the speedometer, gear indicator, odometer, fuel level, clock, trip, range till empty, and tack information. I've got the LCD gauge on my bike, which I didn't think I would like at first, but it actually includes a ton of information at a glance. I'm a fan of the Street Bob because it feels very nimble. It's stripped back and minimal, very customizable, and just overall a lot of fun to ride. If you're thinking about getting into a Softail and want something a little more budget friendly, the Street Bob, it's a solid introduction into Harley's mid-size line. So moving on from the Street Bob, the next bike up is the 2019 Harley-Davidson Low Rider. So this bike has a style reminiscent of the original 70s bike when it came out, and it does even have 70s inspired tank graphics. So the engine in this bike is a 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. The bars are low pullback, angled kind of downwards. The wheels are cast aluminum, and they're like they kind of have like a polished look to them. This bike has dual tank mounted gauges, so you basically got two analog gauges. One is the speedometer, one is the tack. Weight of this bike comes in at 661 pounds. It has a fuel capacity of 5 gallons. The seat is actually really comfortable. So Miss Blockhead has this bike and I've ridden it a couple times. The seat, crazy comfy. It does have the 2-up option, so it does have a back seat for a passenger. Seat height is 26.2 inches, has a ground clearance of 5.1 inches, lean angle of 29.6 degrees left and right. It has a 30-degree rake and a 6.4-inch trail with a 64.2-inch wheelbase. And in terms of brakes, it has a single-sided 4-piston fixed front and 2-piston floating rear. ABS, once again, optional on this one. My opinion on this bike, as it sets stock, I'm not the biggest fan of the styling of it, but with more and more aftermarket companies making parts that fit the Softail line, it's really easy to get a custom style out of the Low Rider platform. That's out of any of the Softail platform now. Whenever they first came out a few years ago, there weren't a ton of companies making parts, but the aftermarket has definitely caught up to the demand. Ms. Blockhead chose to go with the Low Rider and build it out club style, so she ended up powder coating a lot of the chrome and getting custom paint. Now it looks great and much different than stock. If you guys are trying to decide between this bike and the Street Bob, for the price difference of $500 at MSRP, the fact that this bike comes with cast aluminum wheels alone versus the spoked wheels of the Street Bob, to me, that makes it worth the upgrade, because cast wheels are much less maintenance than spoked wheels. But once again, that's up to you guys, so whichever one you're liking more. But overall, the Low Rider, great bike. Really love what Miss Blockhead's done to it. You guys be sure to go give her a follow. I'll be sure to drop her link and all that stuff. So the next bike up is the 2019 Harley-Davidson Softail Slim. Harley says of this bike that the classic bobber has been reborn when it comes to the 2019 Softail Slim, stating that it's a stripped down, souped up bobber with a post-World War II era look. Spoked wheels, chopped fenders, what they call Hollywood handlebars with a blend of dark and polished finishes. It features a low slung, what they call tuck and roll solo seat. The engine on this bike is a 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. It has a single tank mounted gauge. The Slim comes in weighing at 642 pounds. It has a fuel capacity of 5 gallons. Once again, solo seat. The seat height on that is 25.5 inches. It has a 4.7 inch ground clearance, a 27.4 degree left and right lean angle. It has a 30 degree rake and a 5.8 inch trail and a wheelbase of 64.2 inches. In terms of braking, it has a single-sided 4-piston fixed front and 2-piston floating rear. ABS once again optional on this one. My opinion, I like the styling and look to this bike, especially with the blacked out look of the engine and the forks. I'm a big fan of solo seats as well. However, having ridden this bike, I will say that the solo seat doesn't really hold you into the bike all that well, especially with the torque of the 107 Milwaukee 8. While aesthetically the bars aren't my favorite, the ergonomics are very comfortable. It's a classic look. If this is the style that you're going for, it's a great bike. Next up, something a little bit different from Harley-Davidson, the 2019 Softail Fat Bob. This motorcycle features aggressive styling which comes across in the shape of the fenders and the tank with sharper lines. There's some key differences to note about the Fat Bob versus some of the other Softails, in which this bike actually has inverted forks, so that's a big upgrade in front suspension. Dual disc front brakes, so you've got way more stopping power, and you can feel a clear difference between single-sided and dual disc front brakes. And then it also has an elongated headlight, so it's more of like a horizontal LED headlight, which some people like, some people don't. The engine on this one, you can either do a 107 or a 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. The bars on this are drag bars with risers, and they're tapered. It has a very distinct style risers for this style of bike. The wheels are cast aluminum. It has a tank mounted 4-inch analog tack with a digital speedo. Weight on this bike comes in at 673 pounds. It has a 3.6 gallon fuel capacity. The seat on this, it's actually very comfortable. It keeps you locked in. It feels like it has gel padding. I think that's one of the things they talked about, is that, you know, some of the newer ones have gel padding. It does have a 2-up option, so rear pillion for a passenger. Seat height on this bike is 27.7 inches. It has a 4.7 inch ground clearance. It has a lean angle of 31 degrees to the right and 32 degrees to the left, 28 degree rake and 5.2 inch trail with a wheelbase of 63.6 inches. It has dual disc front brakes, 4-piston fixed front, 2-piston floating rear. ABS is optional on the 107 model, however, it is standard on the 114. So my opinion on this bike, a lot of people weren't fans of the new design on the Fat Bob when it came out, but it's become more popular over the years as people start to customize them. It was actually voted Cruiser of the Year by Cycle World in 2018 because it was a nice twist on a cruiser, giving it modern styling and handling. I've been a fan of this bike since they were first released. I thought it was a breath of fresh air seeing Harley-Davidson try something new. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the headlight, that's easily converted to a traditional round headlight if you want to go that route. There's lots of people out there customizing these things, so it's a really fun bike to ride. It's very nimble, leans really well, and with the 114 on there, some really great power, really nice torque. Next up, we're going to be looking at the 2019 Harley-Davidson Deluxe, which is a bright, nostalgic boulevard cruiser. The engine in this bike is a 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. It has pullback bars, chrome-laced wheels with white wall tires, a 5-inch analog speedometer, tank-mounted gauge, LED headlight, running lights, and a tombstone tail/stop light. This bike weighs in at 697 pounds. Fuel capacity on this bike is 5 gallons. It has a solo seat with a bit of a back to keep you on the bike. Seat height is 25.9 inches. Ground clearance is 4.5 inches. It has a 28 degree left and right lean angle with a 30 degree rake and 5.7 inch trail. Wheelbase is 64.2 inches, and it has a single-sided 4-piston fixed front brake, a 2-piston floating rear, and ABS comes standard. My opinion on this bike, it's very classic and a very clean looking bike. With the longer fenders that have chrome accents combined with the white wall tires, It just looks super clean. The Deluxe is actually the model of choice for the Cholo style, which some of you might have seen in the show Mayans MC. They basically put larger, thicker spoked wheels on them, the dual shark fin exhaust, apes, and more to give it that really custom look, and it comes out looking super clean. It's cool to see how, you know, each of these Softails has its own kind of style to it, you know, and the direction that people take them. Next bike that we're looking at is the 2019 Harley-Davidson Sport Glide. New for 2019, Harley-Davidson actually announced a hybrid/modular bike, taking some styling and functionality from their touring line, and they announced it as the Sport Glide. Set on the Softail frame, but equipped with removable saddlebags and a removable mini batwing fairing. This bike is actually aimed at the rider that wants something nice for around town, but also wants the ability to throw on some luggage and lay down some miles. It's another Softail option that has inverted forks as well. The engine offered on the Sport Glide is a 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. It does have pullback bars. The wheels for this are new. They're called Mantis wheels. They're not straight spoked out like most other Harleys. They actually kind of have a bit of a curve to them, like a little angle. The gauge is a 5-inch analog speedo, tank mounted. This bike weighs in at 699 pounds. It has a fuel capacity of 5 gallons. The seat on this thing, very comfortable. Whenever you sit on it, you feel very set, like in the bike. It does have the 2-up option. Seat height is 25.7 inches. Ground clearance is 4.7 inches. It has a 27.9 degree right lean angle and a 28.7 degree left lean angle, with a 30-degree rake and a 5.9-inch trail and a wheelbase of 64 inches. Has a single-sided 4-piston fixed front brake as well as a 2-piston floating rear, and ABS is standard on this bike. My opinion of the bike, I think the Sport Glide is an awesome answer from Harley-Davidson for those that want a bike that has some functionality of like a touring cruiser, but also has the modularity built into it to be able to remove those features, meaning remove the bags, remove the fairing, and it still look good. So a lot of the touring stuff, if you take off the bags, it's all like subframe and it doesn't really look that good. If you remove the fairing, like you can't even remove the fairings on some of the touring bikes. It would just look really weird. But with this, the fact that you're able to take off the bags, you're able to take off the fairing and it still look really nice, definite perk. In my opinion, it fills a gap that was previously in the lineup for people that weren't quite ready to go full touring, but still wanted the option to be able to throw bags on, you know, do like a longer weekend trip. They're not full-size bags, so I mean, you're kind of limited, but it's a good option. Next bike, we are looking at the 2019 Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, the original fat custom icon. The 2019 Fat Boy has a very distinguished style, and it's mostly known for the bike that Arnold Schwarzenegger rode and jumped in the Terminator. It features satin chrome finishes, which looks a lot like kind of a brushed chrome. It's got that iconic muscular stance with solid disc, what they call Lakester wheels, wrapped in a 160 front, which is huge for a front tire, and 240 rear. So the engine options on this, you can either do a 107 or a 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. The bars are traditional pullback style coming out of short risers. You've got a 5-inch tank-mounted analog speedo. The weight on this bike comes in at 670 pounds. Fuel capacity is 5 gallons. The seat on this is actually a bit thinner. It's not as wide as some of the others, so it's a thin 2-up, which has a removable pillion. Seat height is 25.9 inches. It has a 4.5-inch ground clearance, a 25.6 degree left and right lean angle, a 30 degree rake, and 4.1 inch trail with a 65.6 inch wheelbase. The brakes on this, it is a single-sided 4-piston fixed front and a 2-piston floating rear, and ABS is standard on both the 107 and 114 models. My opinion on this bike, it is a stout, classic, iconic looking Harley. It's a comfortable ride, especially with the wider tires. You're not going to get stuck in those like grooves and cuts in the road, but with the wider tires, it takes a bit more leaning than normal to get it to turn. Some people say that the solid wheels make you feel crosswinds a bit more, but from the times I've ridden it, I can't really say that I've ever felt that. Overall, low, stout, iconic looking Harley-Davidson. And it's definitely a smooth ride because of the wider tires, but that comes with the sacrifice of handling. Next one we're looking at is the 2019 Heritage Classic. So Harley-Davidson calls the styling on this a dark classic with modern edge. They've basically revamped the Heritage while keeping that nostalgia. It features lockable and sealed saddlebags with studded accents across both of them, as well as on the seat, It also comes with a detachable windscreen, taller bars for comfort, and extra lighting on the front. Now you can get this in either the 107 or the 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. The wheels on this are spoked wheels. It has a 5-inch tank-mounted analog speedo as the gauge. Weight on this comes in at 723 pounds. It has a fuel capacity of 5 gallons. The seat on this, it's a bit wider, but that makes it really comfortable. It does have the 2-up option, and I believe the pillion on the back is detachable. The seat height on this is 26.3 inches. It has a ground clearance of 4.7 inches, a lean angle of 27.3 degrees right and 28.5 degrees left. It has a 30-degree rake, a 5.5-inch trail, and a 64.2-inch wheelbase. Now, braking on this, it is a single-sided 4-piston fixed front and 2-piston floating rear. ABS is standard on both the 107 and 114 models of this bike. My opinion on the bike, I kind of think of this one like the Sport Glide, but with a more classic, Harley-Davidson look to it, especially with the studs on the seat and saddlebags. I like the styling of it and how they made it like kind of a darker style. It's a nice option for those that aren't quite looking for the full-size touring, but want enough space in the bags to get away for a few days. It's going to be more space in the bags on this one than, say, the Sport Glide. If you want more wind, the windshield is very easily removable, and as with a lot of the Softails, there's a lot of aftermarket customization options for the Heritage as well. Also, just to pitch, one of my moto vlogger buddies out there, if you guys watch John Maxwell, he has one of these. I think he's owned it for about a year or so. He's done a lot of trips from Georgia down to here to Orlando, and he absolutely loves the bike. So if you guys are looking for some more feedback on this one, be sure to go check out John Maxwell. I'll try to remember to link his information down in the description below. Chances are you guys already follow him. If you don't, check him out. Next bike we're looking at is the 2019 Harley-Davidson Breakout. So the styling on this thing, it's low and lean. I'm a big fan of the styling of the Breakout. Modern muscle and chopper style. The Breakout has a beefy 240 rear tire. The bars are kept clean with Harley-Davidson's new digital riser gauge placed on drag bars. You can either get this one in a 107 or 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 engine option. The wheels are a gloss black cast aluminum. This bike comes in weighing at 672 pounds. It has a 3.5 gallon fuel capacity. The seat on this is thinner than most, but it is actually very comfortable. It has like kind of a nice little rear, lumbar area or whatever that keeps you locked into the bike. It does have the 2-up option. I think the pillion is removable, but don't quote me on that. Seat height on this is 25.6 inches. It has a 4.5-inch ground clearance. Lean angle is 26.8 degrees left and right. It has a 34-degree rake, a 5.7-inch trail, and a wheelbase of 66.7 inches, so a pretty big wheelbase on this one. The brakes on this, it has a single-sided 4-piston fixed front and a 2-piston floating rear, and ABS is standard once again on both the 107 and the 114. My opinion on this bike, I'm a huge fan of the Breakout. I absolutely love the look. I love the raked out forks. I love the smooth and clean profile of the bike. I actually considered buying one of these before the FXDR came out, and I compared these two pretty heavily, and the only reason that I went with the FXDR versus the Breakout is because the lean angle was better. But if you guys are looking for a low and clean chopper style cruiser, the Breakout has a timeless look and it definitely turns some heads. I'm a big fan of this bike. So last but not least, we are looking at the 2019 Harley-Davidson FXDR. So this one's brand new for Harley-Davidson for 2019. They kind of actually released this one in secret. Whenever they did the announcements for the 2019s, they only gave us a few small glimpses in their previous advertising, and they didn't even mention FXDR at all. This is actually inspired by their drag race line of bikes. Harley-Davidson says it's fast on the streets and agile in the corners. With currently owning one, I can vouch for both of those statements. It is a very peppy bike, with the 114, and despite the bigger rear tire, it's very agile in the corners. So Harley-Davidson took this in an entirely new direction versus a lot of the stuff that they've previously done, including alloy and composite components into the design. They actually reduced the overall weight with an all-new aluminum swing arm and subframe. They did a newly designed 2-to-1 exhaust, a racing-style inverted front forks, an NHRA drag bike-inspired air intake with a forward-facing filter element, and a stretched fuel tank and full LED lighting. These are all things that come standard on the FXDR. So the engine is a 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. The bars are clip-ons, which I think that's the first that I've seen that from Harley-Davidson from the factory. The wheels, the front is a black split 5-spoke cast aluminum. And then the rear is a solid disc with laser etched graphics on both that say Harley-Davidson in that orange color. The gauge is their new 2.14 inch LCD. Once again, I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't think I'd be a fan of it, but having owned it, they pack a ton of information and it's very visible. The weight on this bike is 668 pounds. It has a fuel capacity of 4.4 gallons. The seat is actually a solo seat. It has a raised back to keep you on the bike. And while it doesn't look very comfortable, it's actually more comfortable than what you'd think. The seat height is 27.7 inches. But while that doesn't seem that tall, the bike is actually kind of wider at the bottom. So between the primary case and the exhaust, you've got to kind of have a wider stance. Ground clearance on this bike is 5.3 inches. Lean angle is 32.6 degrees right and 32.8 degrees left. It has a 34-degree rake and a 4.7-inch trail with a wheelbase of 68.4 inches. The brakes on this, it has a dual-disc 4-piston fixed front and a 2-piston floating rear. My opinion on this bike, I mean, currently own this motorcycle, so that should tell you something. I really liked it. I've been into sport bikes previously. I've owned sport bikes previously. Like, I like cruisers as well. So to me, this was kind of like a nice medley of like the two styles. You know, you're getting like the torquiness of a V-twin. Despite it being a cruiser, you're getting, you know, some nice performance out of it in terms of the handling. Despite it having a 240 rear tire, most people think that would make it handle worse. However, the bike is actually very easy to maneuver and lean. So if you guys are interested in this bike, I would highly recommend taking one out for a test ride. If you're interested in, you know, like those like lower, clean, you know, muscle style bikes, between like this and the Breakout, I would definitely recommend test riding both of them back to back, just so you can feel there's a pretty big difference between the two, especially whenever you're leaning them over. All right, guys, so that has been overview of the Softails here at Seminole Harley-Davidson. Once again, big thanks to them. You guys be sure to look them up, check out the link and the description and all the information down there. If you guys come up here, be sure to tell them that Blockhead sent you. I hope this video was educational for y'all that are possibly considering the Softails. This is for the, once again, for the 2019 line. So we're gonna be coming back whenever Harley-Davidson releases the 2020s, and we'll do it for the 2020 line as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell icon also, so it sends you notifications of future uploads and activity. Until next time, you guys ride safe out there, stay vigilant. Catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.